Welcome to Sailing Magic Carpet. In this episode, we practice getting into a life raft, I play some music and practice my sewing, ALADINO perfects the cabin top, and we give you a better view of our temporary home.
I'm ALADINO. I'm both Swiss and Italian and a boat builder by profession.
And I'm Maya, a Canadian artist and sailor. This is our home, Magic Carpet. She's a Vinda 32, though she's only 28 feet long. And 4 years ago, she fell 20 feet off a crane onto concrete. Insurance wrote her off, but ALADINO bought her, fixed her, and now she's our home. Our mission? To sail around the world as slowly as possible. It turns out that if you live in a boatyard and you pay regular visits to the boatyard dumpster, you're bound to find something interesting sooner or later. Our friends Par and Sandra from Sweden found this life raft, which had already been inflated, so we thought it was the perfect opportunity to practice climbing in and out of a life raft. Maxime, who you may remember from previous episodes, has plenty of experience with marine safety drills, and he gave us a quick briefing before we began.
Okay, apart from that, you're in the water, everybody's in the water, you have lines to attach yourself. There is a ladder, you can see on this one, it's too cold. It's soft, then you're gonna be maybe dressed, so you're heavy. So there are a few tricks, like the guys doing diving. When you want to jump in the boat after the dive, you just sink a little bit and push up, and you will have a little bit of momentum to climb in. You can have some people that help you on the side. Okay, one on each side. First one who's in helps the others. And that's it.
Just to be clear, none of us are certified marine safety experts, and I definitely recommend taking a marine safety course like the International STCW Basic Training course to learn the theory yourself and get your own hands-on experience with climbing into a life raft.
Me neither.
Climbing into a life raft from the water is worst case scenario. The safest option is usually to step from your sinking boat to the raft. We actually should have worn life jackets for this drill. In the STCW Basic Training course, you do have to enter the life raft while wearing a life jacket.
Alright, ready for the door? Yeah. Ready? Close the door.
Well, I think first we get a bucket and empty it out, depending on the situation. Maybe every wave puts in more.
Yeah.
I think every wave would spill in more, you want to close it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So now it's...
Pull on this side? On this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so...
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, you can almost sleep in here. It's one can lie down at the time. You're cold?
Yes.
I'm
Getting better.
Yeah.
Not that bad. So where would the bag with the stuff be?
Here somewhere, probably there. This, we're already hitting land.
Alright.
Yeah. I'm sitting on the ground right now. Okay, so let's open up this again, and we can try it open a bit.
There are bags on the bottom of the life raft, which fill with water to help stabilize it and prevent it from flipping over. However, in a big sea, it could still easily flip, and so ALADINO and Par practiced flipping it back again.
There's a cord.
Yeah, you grab from the cord.
Maxime said that in training sessions, he's actually seen these bags tear off of expired life rafts because the glue or stitching doesn't hold anymore. If this happened, it would be really difficult to get into the raft without flipping it over on top of yourself. Maxime explained that in this scenario, one person should go to the back of the raft to stabilize it while the other person gets in. This was a really great drill, and I'm so happy we got the chance to do it. It's always sobering to keep in mind, though, that these were the best possible conditions. The water wasn't too cold, there were barely any waves, and we were very calm because we knew it was just a drill. A small difficulty, like jumping into the raft in a training session, gets infinitely magnified when combined with a big sea, cold water, and the huge stress of a real emergency. I know many of you who watch our videos have a lot of experience with marine safety, so if you have any stories or tips to share, please let us know in the comment section. Back on Magic Carpet, we've got many projects on the go, like always. For example, you might remember the story of our stove from the last episode. The stove was way too corroded to be fixed, and since we were unable to order new parts, we decided it's time to replace the stove. So, we have our heart set on the Origo 3000 stove for a few reasons. First, because it seems super hassle-free and easy. Second, because it seems quite safe. Third, we've heard super good reviews about it. Sailing Uma has one. Also, Scott has one. Scott is one of our patrons who we met and who we admire his opinion on boats greatly, and he's got one of them and likes it. We want an Origo 3000. Problem is, it's sold out everywhere. I've stopped making them. Nowhere seems to have them anymore. So now I've started emailing like a whole bunch of boats for sale in Sweden, actually, because it's a Swedish stove, so there's a lot of them in Sweden. Started emailing the owners of all these boats for sale that have them installed, asking if they would sell the stove separately. So this is turning into a really big mission now. Here! I have ridiculously exciting news. Okay.
What's up?
So I emailed all of those people who are selling the boats in Sweden who have the Origo 3000 stove. 2 of them already emailed me back and they were like, what are you talking about? Like, it's still for sale in Sweden. And they sent me the link to this Swedish website, which didn't turn up in any of my Google searches. And the Swedish website had it listed. I've literally found so many dead ends with this stove that I couldn't really believe it at first. So I emailed the Swedish website, I'm like, will you ship it to France? Expecting them not to. And they just emailed me back and they said that's no problem. They can ship it to France. Shipping cost is easy. Takes a week to arrive. I'm so stoked. So it seems like it's still for sale in Sweden.
Nice.
You can't buy it anywhere else anymore.
Let's get it.
Well, yeah, I'm getting it right now. All right. With the stove on its way, it was time to celebrate with some music. Recording?
Mm-hmm.
What you doing, Deanie?
Looking for cans which would suit our couscous. I found a few
And how are you looking for those cans?
from the openings that I made. Oh, you find it funny.
I find it so funny. Okay, I have to tell the subscribers the story of
Those
these
are
openings.
amazing.
Or how about you tell them the story of the openings? You like telling the story of the openings.
Okay, so original way of accessing what is underneath the bunks is like this.
Mm-hmm.
Hello! Chickpeas, please! And what Renee did was
Renee is the previous owner.
Yeah,
of
well,
Magic
I've
Carpet.
told like 20 times.
I know, but sometimes there's new watchers.
Subscribers know Maxime, they should know this. No. What the previous owner did was drawers, which would slide out. But having a drawer, you lose an incredible amount. You could have a drawer which is not that deep because the hole starts curving up, so it's about this deep. Comes out like here. What do we have? 10 cans. What did Deanie do? And what does Maya make fun of?
I don't make fun of it. I find it funny that this is the thing you're the proudest of. It now opens from the top.
And they epoxied and painted and stringed and mahoganyed over there. Yeah, it's not the prettiest job. It was one of the last ones that we did in the yard, and I had to get it done quickly, so it works super well, but it's not the prettiest.
The reason I find this so funny is that anytime we give anyone a boat tour, that's one of the things that ALADINO spends the most time talking about. And I mean, he rebuilt this entire boat. He did the most impressive things on this boat, and this is the thing he's most stoked on. And I just think that's a funny little thing, that sometimes it's the small things that are the most exciting in the end. As well as being an expert in food storage solutions, ALADINO is also an expert at taking care of our mahogany cabin top.
Crack in the varnish. I'll have to take the frame off and then sand this one too. I've been checking for cracks in the varnish on the whole cabin top, and then when I find one I sand slightly, sometimes to the wood if it is wet, so it can dry off a little bit, and then I will apply 2 component Epiphanes to fill it up back to the height of the whole varnish. And once I'm done with that, I will sand the whole cabin top, and I'll apply 1 component Epiphanes, I don't know yet, 2-3 layers on the whole cabin top to seal everything and make the layer a bit thicker again. The first coat is PP Varnish Extra from Epiphanes. It's a 2-component varnish, and the first coat I'm using it heavily diluted, up to 25% thinner, because this is just for the spots where I've been on the wood, so I want the varnish to penetrate and get sucked up by the wood. And I'm basically doing that just on the spots to get on the same level with the rest of the varnish, which I decided to keep, that I find okay. This is not the most proper way. The most proper way would be starting from scratch. You sand all the varnish down to the wood, and then you dye the wood, and then you start with the varnish. And when I'm done with 3-4 coats of the 2-component varnish on those spots, I'll sand down the whole cabin top, and then we'll give it a few coats with 1 component overall. This is a very important corner on our boat to keep an eye out for moisture, since water likes to collect here and goes down, so I decided to renew the caulking. I cut it out yesterday, I let it dry one day, and now I apply the same heavily thinned varnish, hoping that it would go everywhere where the wood is not protected, and at the end, after varnishing, I'll give it a new caulking, a new Sika seam. In general, if it's wood that is still working, I would recommend you guys to use 1-component varnish, but the big benefit of this 2-component varnish is when you need to apply many coats, it dries out and hardens much faster, so I can continue working and I can apply up to 3 coats a day. Since I'll revarnish the cabin top, also the window frames have to come off. I don't like varnishing around them, and also because the frame is metal, it did push into the wood at some points, or well, basically I'm just checking the wood everywhere for little imperfections, and there is a few spots which actually do need the varnish.
While Aladino worked on the cabin top outside, I worked on some bulkhead organizers inside. When you live on a 28-foot boat, space is always an issue, so we thought that some extra storage might be a good idea. I have been sewing, and I'll show you what I've made. So I made this organizer to put on the bulkhead by the kitchen. We're always running out of storage space on a boat this size. So something like this will help us a lot. So it just goes here. And yeah, Aladino will put some screws in the corners to keep it all flat on the bulkhead, and then we can put kitchen utensils, toothbrushes, like everything that needs to be kind of near the kitchen or near the sink. I'll show you quickly how I made it. It's really simple. First of all, of course, I cut out a piece of fabric the size that I wanted to mount on the bulkhead, and then I allowed for 3 centimeters seam. So I measured 3 centimeters extra and then folded it over, sewed a little seam. That's pretty self-explanatory. The nice thing about this fabric is you can see it's got all these holes in it. That makes it really nice and easy to sew in a really good straight pattern just by hand, because you kind of have a guide of where to put the needle in and out. And then to get these pockets, I actually had to sit and think for a second on how to do this, because I wanted it to be flat along the bottom, but then to have lots of space inside. And the way I did that is I just cut out a big rectangle of fabric, and I just folded it like this so that it lies flat. And then after I folded it, I sewed along the bottom, and then I just put a stitch down into the folds, and that way it stays all in place. So I've decided to make another organizer for the other bulkheads so that they match, and I'm going to use the same pattern so it's more or less symmetrical. But this one I'm going to bring down just 2 centimeters farther so that it's just a little bit longer. I think it fits nicer on this bulkhead. And yeah, let me show you how I'm mapping it out. So basically, I just laid the existing one over top. I traced around it, making sure all the lines are straight. Then I added 2 centimeters down onto the bottom. And then 3 centimeters of seam allowance, traced that out, and now I'm gonna cut it and sew it. All right, I just cut it out. It looks like this. So then I'm going to fold down the seams and sew. But to see the finished products mounted on the bulkhead, you'll have to wait until the next episode, because I'm not quite finished yet. But before I end this video, I'll leave you with one more little song. I'm learning this new song right now, and it's making me so happy. I don't know the whole thing yet, but I wanted to share with you just the first section. I've known this song for years. I used to listen to this song in the summertime when I lived with my parents and I was young, and I would sit at the dining room table and I would paint pictures of Italy while listening to this song. It's a French song, so that doesn't really make sense, but at that time I was just like, oh, Europe is Europe. I had never been there. It all seemed like this magical place. And now I'm finally learning it, because I finally know how to play guitar a little bit. I never knew how to play guitar before. So the song is called Jardin d'hiver, and I'm gonna play you just the first section of it that I know. Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des tiers, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Okay, that's all I know for now, but I'll work on more, and then maybe I'll play you a longer version in a later episode.